All right. Now I'm gonna request remote control. All right. I think that should work. Let me see. All right, that's me now. So where is your open up your terminal? I can't tell where your terminal is on this. There we go. All right. So what you initially want to do is, so since you already have forked the documents over to your actual GitHub repo, so like this is your GitHub right here, CH Brady, and now we see the Claudia session. So that means that you don't own it, but you have a very specific copy of it. Like now you're able to contribute to it. That's why you fork it is first instead of cloning it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now we have this here, and now we're gonna
Oh,
bring
I
it.
see. Because cloning, you can't put it embedded back in.
You can, but so when you clone it is when you're gonna clone it into your local machine. So your local machine is your computer, because right now it only exists within
Oh,
GitHub, right? So technically the application is not like it's wrong. It's just that you haven't cloned it to your local machine.
I see. I just forked it.
You just forked it. So let's figure out where we are. So PWD to figure out where we are, and we're gonna have to go into the desktop. So we're gonna change directory, desktop, and then I believe we created a session, correct?
Yes,
Specifically, what was it called?
Carlos session.
Carlos session. Okay. See the Carlos session. Okay. And then we're gonna check again what we have inside of it. So we're gonna do ls. We just have lesson one. All right, so we're gonna make a new directory, and mk say make in the directory. We're gonna call this fall session. Shit.
Oh, I guess I should tell you, I did take some
Mm-hmm.
time to like look at the syntax and get a little pointed again with the,
With the terminal syntax.
yeah, with the terminal syntax and
Mm-hmm.
with, I was starting with the GitHub syntax. Also, is the terminal basically just the same as
Navigating your
text
folder. Be
editor? Like you can choose whatever terminal like application you use? Because I think I'm using the one that came with the Mac, right?
correct. This is your native application.
Okay, because what
Yeah.
in the okay, sorry to interrupt. Continue.
No, no, go ahead. Keep asking questions. Because I know what you're gonna ask is what's the difference between the GitHub CLI and this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the GitHub CLI is just exclusively just for GitHub, and it will only manage your GitHub stuff, and
Um,
it won't allow you to make changes to your actual machine. So right now, if you use your terminal, think of yourself as a super user because you're able to do everything. But the only thing is that if you make a change, there's no going back. So it's like you're playing with fire.
oh,
So if you delete something from your terminal, there's not going to be a confirmation saying, "Do you want to delete this?" If you do it with like in the folder finder.
oh, I see.
Uh-huh.
But it does keep you from deleting its actual shortcuts, right? Just not the
No,
actual information.
no,
Oh,
no. If you delete something on the terminal, you uninstall it and everything.
really?
Yeah,
Is it just specific ones then that it doesn't work that way? Because I thought I read like the specific commands you can't delete or
oh,
something.
okay. So what you're talking about, if you have a folder filled with items inside of it, if the folder is not empty, then you need to do a sudo command for it. So the sudo command is when you're
Yes.
stating that you are the actual owner of the file, and then it will prompt you to put in your account password.
Okay, so I should frequent my terminal or no?
I believe yes, it's gonna speed you up and it's gonna see, for example, like I don't know anything about Mac, right?
Yeah.
But I know how to use the
Oh,
terminal. And
yeah. Oh,
that's all that really matters, because I know how to use Linux, Mac, and Windows. But I have a Linux machine in my computer, but
yeah.
I don't own a Mac. But the commands for our Linux is a Unix system. It's same with the Mac system.
Yeah.
So since I know both of them, I can work on basically any OS. But I don't know how, like, for example, remember earlier when we started, I couldn't really find anything on the Finder or how to use it,
Yeah.
because
Because
I don't know Mac, but I do know the terminal.
I
And that's
see.
kind
So the terminals work the same. There
of,
can be certain terminals that only work for certain applications and operating systems. Yes.
correct. So there's the Unix system,
Uh-huh.
which is for Mac and Linux,
Uh-huh.
and then there's Windows, which is a whole different like language, if that makes sense. It's not really much difference. There's a different commands, but it does make a little bit of difference when it comes to like Googling what you want to do.
I
But since you're using Mac, wait, think about it like you already know how to use Linux. It's almost that simple.
Linux. Linux.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I was looking at command line and like the syntax and stuff, there were so
Hmm.
many things showing up, and I was like, I thought about texting you and asking you, but I was like, no, it's a dumb question.
It is,
But
hey,
I
there's no dumb
noticed that
questions.
I always think I have really dumb questions.
No, 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 no. Trust me, when I was going to school, like I would like bombard my TAs with questions. And like that's why I quote unquote know so much now, because like I quote unquote ask the dumb questions that nobody else would.
That's true. That's true. But you answered that. I was wanting to know, like, does it matter which one I download? Does it matter which one I work through? Because a lot of these things I feel like I kind of got started, but
Mm-hmm.
I was too overwhelmed and not knowing what I'm working on. So I was just like, they're all kind of set up in my in my laptop, but I don't really know how to use them or what works for what. So then the terminal that I am using now, the one
Mm-hmm.
to the right on my screen,
Mm-hmm.
one is specifically for my computer.
Mm-hmm. That is your native terminal.
That's the main brain that I'm working with.
Correct. So this
Okay.
allows you to have access to your entire computer down to the root level.
Okay. That makes
That
sense.
that's but like I said, it's also playing with fire. So because like if you delete something, it doesn't go to the trash can. It goes off the system forever.
Done. You need to reinstall it. And is there
Reinst
something that's what you would do, right? Reinstall?
right, you reinstall or download the package, whichever it is. Um,
Okay.
but
I have a question then. If
mhm,
my computer says that soon the updates are not going to be compatible with
mhm,
the initial,
then just update it. Because
is
that
to get in
what
touch with my engineer. The thing is, I had some work done on my computer and they
mhm,
like wiped it all clean, and then they must
okay.
have what you just said. They must have re-downloaded. What was that word that you just used?
The packages or or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So
Yeah.
at that level, I don't know Mac like that for me to give you a concrete answer. I would have to see the error message that you get for me to
I guess
reverse
just for
engineer
me to
it.
do some research, what's the word that you used? Are we working on the operating system when it comes to that and downloading updates and stuff? Is
I
that what I
would
should be looking
I would have to look at the error message for me to give you a clear answer, because it might just be it might be an app that it's updating, or it might be the OS. There's like
for?
two
DOS.
very the OS. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
like I said, I will have to really look at, like, next time you get the error message, take a picture of it and then send it to me, and then I will look into it. That way, like, because sometimes if you do a system update, like it won't damage your computer, but it will it might reorganize your stuff by accident, and then it will because if it is like an iOS update, right, then it shouldn't do much like an iPhone would.
Yeah. But it's saying pretty soon it won't be compatible. Okay.
Y-
I'll do what you said.
Yeah, so that's what I think is happening. I think it's just like an iOS update, and it's gonna. I mean, you're gonna have to do it eventually, but like when it really does pop up, and then we're gonna reverse engineer like whatever you were trying to do.
Yeah,
That way it makes more sense.
sounds good. Okay, sorry to get off track.
No, no worries. So now that so let's check where we are again. So to check where we are, we do PWD. And we're inside of users, Claudia H. Brady in the desktop and Carlos session, and we create this new folder called full session.
You
So in
just
order,
added.
yeah, I guess correct. I just added full session into Carlos session. That way I can stay organized and where we at all times.
Do you literally pronounce it make it dear? Or
What's
how do you
that?
pronounce that? How do you pronounce MKDIR?
MK MKDIR. Well, I say make directory, but I don't because that's the actual like full word.
Okay.
But I don't know. I've never really thought about the actual word pronunciation, if that makes sense. I've always just like I always read it, but in my head I read make directory.
Make
Kind of
directory.
kind of a weird thing. I'll send you a link that I have with all of the commands.
Yeah.
That way you can like the
Right.
best way is to practice them. It's
Yeah.
just it's just create, like empty folders with empty files, blah blah blah, and then delete them, move them, and then that's the only way you're gonna like get comfortable with it. But it is a little bit difficult to get started at first with your terminal. But once when you're like good with it, it will make your workflow much faster.
Okay. Okay, so when we're working on a new project, we always
Mm-hmm.
start with the terminal. We create the folders and where it's going to live. And
Mm-hmm.
then from there, we open Visual Code or whatever text editor
Mm-hmm.
you're using. And
Mm-hmm.
then you upload those files or link those files.
We will push those files up to Git, and I'll show you how to do that at the end of the session, because
Okay,
that way it'll make more sense.
you push the files up to Git.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I think I'm tracking now.
Okay, so now we are inside this folder, and as we see, there's nothing inside of it.
Oh,
So we're gonna actually clone this. We're gonna use I use the HTTPS version of it,
okay.
and I'm just gonna copy it. And the command is git clone, and then you paste your link.
Oh, así de fácil.
Yep.
Chinga.
And then right now we have ls Claudia session. But here's the key part.
It's because it's public, right? That we can follow the HTTPS.
TPS, correct, because it's a public repository, and not only that, if it was private, I could still since give you access by allowing you to fork it, and then it'll be a private repository between you and I.
So that's the only way I could borrow, right?
Correct. Well, no, you can if you find like say for example, right? Let me go to mine, my GitHub. Right? Let's say for example, yeah, you want to borrow this one, right? It's public. You don't even have to fork it. You can just straight up clone it.
Dang.
So it's because this is public, but if like my private ones, you won't be able to see unless I directly invite you to them.
I see. But either way, you can just clone.
Clone it, yeah.
Cool.
All right, but now this is the actual key part right now. We're gonna make a brand new what's it called? Branch for you. So we're gonna cd into Claudia. So change directory. We're gonna call git branch checkout -b. And we're gonna
This?
huh?
You're making this?
No, so notice this right here, right? It says main,
Yeah.
but there's nothing else. Now, if you look at how I do it, all of my developments, for example, this is like my current like website, right? I have so the main branch is what lives on the internet, like what people can see. And then what I'm working on to fix it, it's on the development branch.
Oh,
That way, when I'm ready to commit live updates, I push them to the main branch.
yeah.
And then the main branch, the way I have it set up, that we can go all down later, my website continuously reads my GitHub main branch to see if there's any updates.
Okay.
So that's why you want to always split your workflow. And not only that, so like if we look at my two branches, right?
Yeah, because then you would have to shut down while you're working on it, right?
Exactly. And if I accidentally push a bug into the main branch, now there's a bug in production. You never want to do that.
You're right. Screws up your whole. I've done that before, just so you
No, it's part of learning. So if you look at this, it says there's 4 commits behind and 1 commit ahead, right? So what does this mean? So on this branch, I've done all of these commitments, like all of these like new like code I pushed into it, right?
know.
But it's not on my main branch. So it's saying that this branch is more updated than the main branch. But if I, for example, right, let's say this version completely broke, and I don't know how to fix it anymore, right? Like I went down a rabbit hole, and it happens a lot, and I just broke it, and then there's like no reverting back. Like even like VS Code, I can't like go back anymore.
Yeah.
But I know this one works. So guess what? I can clone this version and restart.
Gotcha. You don't gotta scratch from start.
Exactly. And so this is why it's called version control,
So
because
that's
there's
what you do
different versions
now
of
with
the same. I'm sorry?
this is what you're going to do right now with your what is it called? What's the main thing called with your code?
Yeah, with my code. So like these are different versions of my code,
Yeah.
right? So if this version broke, I can always go back one version and move forward again.
Okay. That
So
makes
the
sense.
so this is why you want to like my personal way, like when I'm really on it, I like to do like one push a week, because that way I have multiple versions of what I'm working on. Because they're like, say for example, like Saturdays when I really go heavy on coding,
Yeah.
I sometimes like I go down rabbit holes and I can't fix what I broke anymore, or I broke something else, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
But then I just go back one version and then I just continue and then I restart instead of restarting the entire project and all of that. Okay, just go back one version, would be like 1 week behind.
Sounds good. So this Git branch checkout
Mm-hmm.
that will create
A new branch for you.
a new branch for me of what
Mhm.
we already have.
Of
Of
what we already have.
of
Correct.
what you just
So
okay.
get branch checkout -B, and we're gonna call this branch Claudia. And make sure to put it in quotations, because if you don't put it in quotations, then the terminal thinks it's a command.
Um and that's what we're gonna name it.
Correct.
Okay.
Uh, let's see, give me 1 second. See that we just got an error.
Error unknown switch B.
Okay, that's because I jumped the gun, and we're not gonna need a B for Mac.
Now, do you think it's okay that I'm learning on a Mac?
Uh, yes, for one simple reason. Um, you're not gonna be limited to mobile devices like I am. For example, I can't deploy any iOS apps because I don't have a Mac.
That's true. You do.
Um, but you are able to deploy both Android and iOS apps. So that's really the only difference,
Oh, okay.
to be fairly honest. That's like but like that really depends what route you want to go to. Like if you want to make iOS apps or you don't want to make iOS apps. So it really comes down to your path of what you want to do.
I
Like me, like I prefer Linux, but it's because I'm going more to AI, and then like AI is like Linux is think of Linux more like Legos. Like it comes down bare bones, and then I slowly construct the computer to how I want it to be. It's a little bit more complicated. Like Linux it's a little bit hard, but instead I make my own custom machine instead of like these pre-built like a Mac or a Windows.
Yeah. And which one is the one that I'm using, you said? What is it called?
Mac OS. Give me 1 second. Getting it. No, hold on. So this is the fun part where I have to start troubleshooting because I haven't done Git on Mac before.
I guess we're both learning something.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh shit, you know what I did again?
What's up?
I'm not connected to my Wi-Fi. The thing is I have Xfinity and so it
Mm-hmm.
automatically connects to that, but after a certain amount of usage,
Mm-hmm.
it dropped me. So if the call drops, I'll just call back.
All right. Let's get remotes. Oh, perfect. Okay, so let's get check out. All right. I'm not sure what happened because I did the accessing command earlier, but that's part of the game. Oh, I did it wrong. So here it is. It said get checkout dash B, and up here I did get branch checkout. Little differences, but it makes.
I see.
So let's clear this terminal. So to clear it, it's simply just type in clear. I like to keep it like organized because then it, just get lost in the sauce, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So now notice that it will hold on, it'll make more sense here. So we're gonna open it up. You're gonna bring that over.
So Visual Code is just like
It's Microsoft Word.
editor, right? Like
It's an editor. It does nothing. I
all
mean,
it
there's a lot. I
like
mean, there's a lot of things you can do with it.
another one, right?
I'm sorry.
If I already have this one, I don't have to download another text editor like this. I can just use this universally.
Yes, except if you want to develop iOS, you need to download Xcode.
Okay, let me write that down.
Yeah. And then what's cool about Xcode that you can if you're doing mobile development, you can have an iPhone pop up on your screen. So you know what it looks like on every single iPhone.
Oh, that's cute.
It's pretty dope. But ultimately, they both do the same thing, except one's Apple and then this is Microsoft.
This one?
But yeah, it's Microsoft. But like everybody uses VS Code, like unless you're doing iOS development, just because it's simple to use.
Which one do you use?
VS Code.
You use this one too. Okay. Yeah, whatever I have
Mm-hmm.
on my files,
Mm-hmm.
my operating system, I can access through Visual Code, yes?
Yes, as long as you go into that file and press code all. So
Code,
like
yeah.
the dot, yeah, the dot stands for all.
Okay, so then if okay, this is what you taught me the first session then,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I had gone and done it wrong.
Not
So
wrong, but
open my terminal. Yes,
mm-hmm.
open my terminal, get
Mm-hmm.
to the folder that I want,
Mm-hmm.
or where the information might be, or what I may have cloned, or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I press code, period, code all,
Yeah, code period.
and that will pop up my VS Code, or I will then
That will
open
pop
code.
that will pop up your VS Code as once you enter that command.
Oh
And
wow,
it will pop it up like you see how it's organized over here.
yeah, it's
Session
all.
0. Yep. But if you go just into session 1, right?
But that's done because that's what I copied. That's what you done.
Right. Uh-huh. So this is because we clone the information
Yeah,
from what's it called? From GitHub. So this is what I posted on GitHub.
yeah. Okay, I understand. So, and I also, what I need to learn is how to, I guess, organize it when I create a GitHub project, or what are they called? Um,
Yeah. Your GitHub branch.
but what is it called when you create compository?
A repository.
What
Mm-hmm.
repository?
So when you create repositories because you're initiating a new project.
New project. So like a new post.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I understand. All right, cool. Yeah, then I guess I did go the long way then.
Give me 1 second.
I don't need GitHub on my desktop then? What
You
would be
don't
the benefits of that? Like I don't have Wi-Fi and I want to work on something?
you don't want to use the terminal. That's the benefit. It's a potato
I use the
potato.
terminal.
It's potato potato. I have friends who don't know how to use the terminal and they only use the command line, like the app.
Yeah.
But then you're reliant on the app, and that's what I hate being reliant on software like that, you know? So
And
that's really my thing. I'm not I would hate to be reliant on it.
so it's literally just a platform to facilitate the same thing that already comes installed in your computer.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's all it
So
really is.
learn both, but know that they're both the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to use the command line like for it just because not that I refuse, it's just that I don't want to make it easy because when it comes like for example like I mentioned earlier, um there's gonna be a point where you're gonna deploy to like Amazon's web services, but Amazon web services when you access their virtual machines, there is no desktop. There's only a command line.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because that's how they save space, you know. They just have like CPUs but no desktops.
Is that like that Assure stuff that I see everywhere?
I'm sorry?
The Assure?
That's Microsoft. Azure is Microsoft. AWS is Amazon.
Yes. Okay. But it's the same concept?
I don't know. I haven't played with Azure because Azure is too expensive for my taste. Same with Amazon. It gets expensive really fast.
Huh.
Like same with Google. I accidentally rented a computer from Google like over the summer, and yeah, because I was learning
Sorry.
how to deploy on the Google Cloud. and I forgot to close it. And before I knew it, I had a $5,000 bill.
Oh my God.
Right.
And
So
you,
I went, oh, I went to dispute. I disputed it. I was like, hey, look, I'm a student. You're like, you can look through my GitHub, blah, blah, blah. I was following a tutorial, and they were like, fair enough. Because like even on the computer, there was nothing being done except for like one day, right? And then
yeah.
so they were like, it's this happens more than you think. So they just
See.
removed my bill. But it was $5,000. I was panicking.
Yeah.
Because
Fuck. Oh my
I was
God.
like, I also work there. Like I can't.
Mi amor. No, bebé, ven. Give me a second. Papa. You have the phone? He just wants the attention. Ándale, ve con tu mamá. Ándale, ve con tu mamá. And you're like, just play with him or something. Okay, I'm back. Dang, that sucks. So why were you
I'm sorry.
why would you need a computer from Google?
Because when you
Like a
deploy a
server?
website, yeah, server. So when you deploy a website, you're deploying it to somebody else's computer.
Yeah, you were renting a server.
I was renting a server. So, but since that's so later on, I'm gonna teach you how to hide like your server keys, so you don't accidentally push them to GitHub. Because there's people who search GitHub for keys, and then they will use your server, run scams, and then like
Your server? Ah, chingo.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
it
might be handy to know.
yeah, but that don't worry about it. You're not even close to that yet. So
All right. Yeah, before my brother-in-law was the one fixing my mistakes. Um, but man, I made quite a few.
all right. So let's get back to this. And
Okay.
have you looked at any of the videos?
I looked at the videos from the GitHub.
Okay.
I have not looked at the videos here.
Okay. So let's do a simple warm up. So these are the loops from last time. We didn't actually get this deep into it. Can you pop your terminal on VS Code by pressing Command tilde?
I don't think that's it.
What is it then for you? Is there a way to do it manual? Oh, there it is. What buttons did you press?
Control Shift and then that squiggly line.
Okay. All right. So that's how you open your terminal. And now we're gonna close this because
So is
we have
that the
no.
same then?
Is the exact.
Okay.
Yep. Is the exact same thing. So just to I always double check though, because sometimes VS Code likes to act weird, right? So to double check, we're gonna check where we are, PWD, and we're gonna go through it. Desktop, Carl session, full session, clouded session.
Okay.
Now we're inside here, just to verify what we have where we are. So now we're gonna actually move onto session 1 because we're working, but we're gonna just quickly run some of these. I still haven't touched you with this, is correct? Modulus?
No.
Because remember when I told you like what if you're like if you want to start at the middle and go forward, right? What if it's an even or not number, right?
Yeah.
So like uh on your spare time this week, look up what math ceiling is.
Okay.
And also
Read into the math, like the math floor and a bit
math
of
floor.
yeah, math seal. don't remember what that one is. I think it's like divided by half, right?
So map ceiling is, say for example, right? You have, do you know what a float is?
No.
All right. Then at this point, I think there's no reason for you to be learning loops. We're gonna start from the scratch.
Why? Okay.
So we're gonna call session 2. And we're actually gonna work on data types today.
Well, we're going back to the beginning.
Yeah, because it's not gonna make any sense if you start working on loops if you don't understand floats, objects, arrays, and strings.
Yeah, because if we get through them, I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember. But just
Mm-hmm.
recalling like that, no, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna create a float value. And floats are just simple decimals. 1.05. That's a float value. Let number value be set to 1. Let string be set to Claudia. Let object be set to name Claudia, comma. You always want to ensure you do the comma at the end to add more. I'm gonna say age. How old are you?
32.
32. So this is how we put in a value into it, is 32. And then let's just say city, Seattle. And at the final one, you don't need a comma because that lets the program, lets the language know that you're done with that object.
There's no more.
There's no more. And if you're ever unsure what type it is, you simply do console.log type of,
Type of.
and then we're gonna do float value. Now,
Gonna tell me what each value is.
now since we've been working on the terminal, what should I do next?
You should probably log it on the terminal.
Right. But there's
So you-
one step before that.
one step before you log it on the terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. You want to make sure you are where you need to be. So
Correct.
pwd, and then you make your way, change directory.
Mm-hmm.
Are we in session 2 now?
Correct. There you go. So you don't need to do PWD if you know where you are at. PWD is to
Session 2
check.
we were.
Yeah, if you don't know, right? But since we know that where we am at, and I know I got session 0, session 1, session 2.
Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna change into session 2. All right. Let me clear the terminal just so it's easy to read.
Yes.
And now we do node data types JS. And this is what's crazy. Notice that it's a float, but the type of it is a number.
Yeah.
Now this is some of the odd things about JavaScript. So JavaScript, whether it's a float or a number, it will return you as a number. So in a sense, you have to keep track whether it's a float or not. And that's where if you want to do a loop where it's an odd number, right? So for example, in this one, if the length of the array minus 1, because we start at 0, is not divisible. I mean, if it is divisible by 2, then we simply divide the length by 2.
Yeah.
But if it's not divisible by 2, then we do a math ceiling since we're going up, because the math ceiling is saying in this version, in the data types, if I have a 1.5 and I do math ceiling,
Can't remember. Does it round up or round down?
it rounds up. This will become a 2.
Yeah. because we have
Regardless of
only
where
one
it's at. Well, no, you can also do a math floor and it'll become 1.
One. Okay.
So it
So
really comes
what
down
you
to want to
uh-huh.
do and
Okay.
how you want to divide the array, because I could have started 1 down or 1 up, but
Yeah.
if you're going forward, correct, right? And in the middle happens to be 5.5, right? And it's out of 10. The actual middle to start forward is at 6. And if you want to go
Yeah.
down, the actual middle to start down is 5.
Yeah.
So this is why
Okay.
if I want to start at the middle and go forward, I do math ceiling so it can start at the higher value. And when I
Yeah.
want to go backwards, I do math floor.
That makes sense.
So let's go back to the data types. So now that we know the float value is a number, that means the number value will also be a number.
Yes. Why do you put node though?
So node is because node is the runtime in which the computer is being ran on it. So because remember you had to download Node.js in order to have JavaScript.
Yeah.
So with this you tell the computer run this file using Node.
Node. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. You're right.
And if you ever transfer to Python, it's the exact same thing, but it's Python file.py.
So would it be that way with like HTML and CSS in every other language?
Nope.
Just those two.
HTML and CSS are not a language. I know
Oh,
that people like to think of it as a language, but they're not a language.
what
They are,
are
but they're not. It's a weird gray area. So
they
a
editors?
no. So it's hard to explain what they really are. Because they're not considered languages because you can't do math with them,
Yeah.
and you can't compute basically, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. So like you you
They're just
can't
like
yeah. So in
they
order
can
for like the HTML to work, you're reliant on the JavaScript.
script. Yeah. Yeah,
And
you're right.
then the CSS is more like it's just for coloring the page basically, which what it is.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
HTML and CSS, even though technically they are languages by like tech terms, like they're not really considered languages.
But not primary languages that can run on their own type of situation.
They're reliant on JavaScript for them to work. So,
That makes
but combined, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it is a language. The combination of the three, because so it. Do you know who Alan Turing is?
no.
Alan Turing was the person who invented computers in like the late 1800s. So a full Turing language. It's considered a language that you can calculate and like do stuff with it.
Yeah.
So JavaScript by itself is a Turing language, but with combined with only when HTML and CSS are combined with JavaScript, then it's considered a full Turing language. So like Python is a Turing language because you're able to do multiple like actual like math with it and like calculations. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much what it comes down to.
I see.
You should read to Alan Turing. Kind of sad life. But
Allen, like Allen.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
pretty sad life. Like homie was depressed, committed suicide.
Dang, that
Uh
sucks.
yeah, he was like in the closet and like it was the 1800s. So like
Yeah.
it sucked for him back in the day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That's so
but
crazy. Yeah.
it really is, and he's the father of like computer, like he's the one who created computers.
Daddy?
uh, Also fun fact: computers were actually physical, like specifically women back in the day who would like write up the code so it can be ran. So
Yeah,
that's where the word computers come from.
I knew that. Really?
Yeah, this with like the computers replaced the physical like people that were manually writing the punch holes.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing a movie that kind of touched on that, but like didn't
Mm-hmm.
go that into the history. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
And
And
now
another
need
thing, why bugs are called bugs? Do you know that one?
no.
So back in the day, like when computers were first a thing, they were only use scantrons, like because how they will do it. That's how the computer would read stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there was an actual cockroach in the long tier. So they're like check for bugs. Like make sure there's no bugs in the paper.
That would ruin punch
No,
holes.
yeah. So that's where the word check for bugs in your codes comes from.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
We're very literal people.
All right, back to this. That was enough fun. So the object, if you do, it'll like, so we're gonna just go with the string. String, and then of course, object.
The object must include how many descriptors?
Irrelevant, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Nope. You can even just have this.
You can leave it.
Hold on, give me a second. Why is it not? There we go. Like it's irrelevant. You can just have name. Well, actually, no, you can't. It's giving me an error. Good to know. But you need a descriptor and something. Not Claudia.
So it does need like to be given assignment.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll show you the why in a bit
Okay.
because we're gonna loop through the string and we're gonna loop through the object. Let me just Jesus. There we go. My command button, my Windows button. Good to know. There we go. So let's go back to what we had over there already. We're gonna make sure that's saved. And look at this. Notice how this has a U on it
Yeah.
because we're working with GitHub right now, right? And what the U stands for is that this is on track.
It's not in the original.
It's not in the original and it's brand new.
Okay. So then how do
So
we keep track of it? How do we save it? Or it's just saved because it's in here?
so it's saved right now exclusively on your local machine.
I see. And this is when you would create what you say, a push?
A
If
push.
let's say at the end of this, it's like, oh yeah, this looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Then you
So
would What's a
let's do
pull then?
a pull request is say for example, like later on I will update the main branch with new information for you to get, right?
Onto the main code. Okay, got
And then no, but you do the pull on your terminal within your exact branch. I will
Okay.
we'll demonstrate that in a little bit because it sounds more complicated than it is.
Okay.
So we're gonna do a quick push with this information that we have right now.
Okay.
And this is actually a key part. First, you want to actually go back to the root level of the what's it called? The Git.
Okay.
So you have to verify, right? Git remote -v, and it has this. But if you actually do a push from this location, you can risk forgetting the rest because we're right now inside
You're so
session
far
2.
deep. Yeah, I
So
see.
we're gonna go back one directory,
To
all
session
right,
2.
to the root of it. So now we're in. So think of it like this, right? When we're here, it's like this. We have
Like,
access to all of these 3.
oh,
But if I go to just session 2, then I'm only inside here,
yeah.
and then you have a risk of losing the tree.
Okay.
So this is why you go back to the root level of the repository.
The root level is Claudia Sessions.
Claudia session, correct.
Okay, I see.
So now that we're here, we're gonna reinitiate Git, and
So
this is this
uh,
part right here is pretty critical on like the flow steps that you do it in, because if you do it in the wrong ways, it will potentially damage your repository. So it has to be done in this way or no way at all, if that sort of makes sense.
okay.
So we're gonna initialize the repository again, git init. All right, git commit dash git commit all. No, wait, hold on. Git commit dash m. So git commit dash m. Hold on, give me a second. Let me go through it real quick. I don't want to make a mistake.
Okay.
Hold on, I have something for this. You can share with you. Repositories. Look for the file. I think it's in touch tab. Yep. Git cmd. Git clone. Okay. So git init, git add all. So I would have made a mistake right there already because I'll forget to add all of the files.
Add all.
Yeah.
And commit.
Yeah, git add all. Enter. And notice the A change to an A. Because
Now,
this has been added, but it hasn't been pushed. So don't
okay.
get it. So now we're gonna commit m your message. So we're gonna do git commit dash m. I'm gonna call this push test. And you want to actually make meaningful messages. So what I mean by meaningful messages is this, right? Like let's say I'm working on the code and I fix a bug. Let's say, for example, the loop works now, right?
Yeah.
And instead of instead I will write loop loop now works, and then I will do comma fix new issue, blah blah blah, right? But make it short. Like you don't have to use like perfect English for it. Just like 3 words to describe what you're putting on, but make it meaningful. If that makes sense. That way you know just by the commit message which version you're working on later on.
Yeah, I always have a things. Are you just being literal to what's happening?
Yeah, I'm being literal to what's happening. Like you can like the get message is irrelevant, right?
Yeah,
But this is just a string, right?
yeah.
So we call it a new push. Please make sure it's always in quotations to that way it understands that it's a string, not a command.
Okay.
All right, so now we're gonna commit. And now look at this. It says 1 file change, 10 insertions.
Like 10
So
lines?
we did 1 file change, 10 lines were added. It's in create mode in here in session 2, data types.js. So it's telling you exactly what the changes were.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're gonna do git push, and then the remote name in this instance, since you are right here, you're instead of copying this, right, which is the equivalent of the remote name, we actually have this command called origin. But this is only because you're logged in to your GitHub on this computer. But if you're working on, let's say, for example, on my computer, you're not logged in to your GitHub. My computer's logged into my GitHub, correct?
Yeah.
So then you do it this way with the remote name, which will be this. So we're gonna copy this. Actually, just to get the push version, copy. And then we're gonna put it in quotations,
Same, no?
paste. And make sure there's no spaces, because this space still counts as part of a string and it will not be able to find it properly.
Yeah.
And now this is also the key part. You want to specify which branch you want to push it to. And we're going to push it to the Claudia's branch. All right. Now that's the command. Git push origin name and the branch name. And now enter. All right, we're gonna allow this. And then it's just saying, it's just authorizing that your VS Code can talk to GitHub. All right, type in your information. All right, let it finish authenticating.
Now, what we were just referencing is the notes that you've included in this session.
No, those are my old notes. Like just in general. I'll keep the link up so you can copy them and use them.
Yeah.
But those are notes that I've accumulated through the time.
Oh, I see. Your cheat sheet.
Yeah, exactly. Like a little cheat sheet. Just because it's so like there's so much going on like the internet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So where is it? It was this one. Oh my god. Right.
Sorry.
You're good.
I know I piss a lot of people off with all my tabs.
No, don't worry. Trust me. When I work on something, my favorite thing is to like close every single tab. It gets crazy sometimes. I have like something like 5 browsers with like 20 tabs inside of it. So don't worry.
I'm really
But yeah, these are my personal notes.
There's no history. I just hate having to go back and look for something.
No, I feel it.
Anyways, but feel free to close whatever. Cool,
So
you did it.
so now
It's
see
pushed.
it's pushed in and it went through properly, right? The remote name. So now if we go back to your GitHub, here I'm gonna open up a new one. That way you can keep that open up with the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And now, see, it says Claudia had one recent push a minute ago, right? And now your branch is right here. Now we got session 2 and a new push. Now your information that we did is right here. You're able to access it. You're even able to edit it,
That?
and now you're even able to edit it as well
From
through
here.
here. Yeah, but I don't recommend it.
Why?
Because that's what you have a terminal, I mean a VS Code for. And
Okay.
and when you make a change here, it's permanent.
Ah, okay.
And then there's no way for you to run it here. There's something called code spaces, but don't worry about that yet. You have VS Code.
Okay.
Like
So
like
use because you can only pull or push,
mm-hmm.
or what was the other thing we did? We did something else. What was the first thing I did?
So to push the branch, right?
Oh,
Here the you might get commands, right?
yeah.
So to clone a repo, these are it right here. And this will will be different from you. Oh, so if you want to clone into a branch, it's say for example, right? I create a new branch that I call it Carlos, and I didn't push to the main branch, but you want the branch on the Carlos branch, right? Then you go git clone branch and the branch name, and then the location of the HTTPS link we copied in the beginning.
Cool.
And then to create a branch is the git checkout -b, and then the branch name. And to switch to an existing branch, if you want to switch into the main branch, which I never recommend unless you know exactly what you're doing. I don't do that because it's like legit playing with fire. If you switch stuff on a branch that you're not supposed to switch it, it can break the entire code base. So it's always better to work on your branch.
Yeah.
And then merge branches later on.
Okay.
And then here are the commands to push. So you can you make sure you're in the root level. You can do the git init, git at all, and it should be git commit message, git push remote name and remote branch name.
Is init literally for like initialize?
Yeah, initialize.
Okay.
And then how to merge into the main branch or any other branch. These are the basics that you'll need for Git. After that, it's like these are like the bare bones. With this, you'll survive any job interview practically when it comes to Git if you just learn these commands.
So copy and paste.
Practically, yeah. Copy and paste them, keep them somewhere like close to you, and then update them as much as you want. So now that we know that we are able to push, right? I'm gonna show you like for example, now I'm gonna change the word Seattle to C, right? Doesn't really matter. There's an M now here. The M stands for modified. So that means that there's a change in your file, right? But it is being tracked. Therefore, the thing has only been modified. The file has only been modified.
Yeah.
And this lets you know that the changes are not in Git, but the file is being tracked. So whenever you're ready to push, it'll push the new changes. And it's to be the exact same way again. we're gonna initialize the repository again to make sure it's turned on. We're gonna add all of them. Hit add all. We're gonna create a new. We're just gonna call this push. All right. And once again, one file change, one insertion, and one line deletion. Because we changed something from here only one time. And now this is the origin command that I was teaching you because you're logged in to your GitHub. So instead of being like this, right, with all of this like this link,
Yeah.
since this is your machine and you have been authenticated to use it on GitHub, you can shorten this command by doing origin.
Oh.
And there you go. It's been pushed to your repository. So look, it's right here, right? This is the previous one, but as soon as I do a refresh, it's changed.
Right. So after the first one that you've given a place to go to, you can just go to origin.
Correct.
And you need it. Okay.
Cool. On this machine, because you have authenticated. That's the key part, is the authentication.
Okay.
All right. So now
Okay.
let's convert a what I'm not trying to move a little too fast because this is already a lot with Git that we've been through. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry. Git is very, very hard, and then it isn't.
Yeah. I mean, once you explain it, it's like, oh, okay. But
yeah, it honestly, it took me about 3 months to get comfortable with Git. So it's one of the like biggest learning curves there exists when it comes to programming. But beyond that, like it'll like if you notice, it just made our workflow faster.
So is Git the only form of
version control? No.
What?
Version control.
No. But is Git the only form of open source?
No, there's a lot of
people share code. This is the only way.
This is the popular way.
Okay.
This is like the industry standard.
Gotcha.
Like
so this is your resume then.
Correct.
No.
Let me show you Google's version of it real quick.
So there are other versions.
Yeah, there's plenty of versions. So let me share my screen real quick. You want to unshare yours?
Okay.
And it's, what is it? Screen 3. Yep. All right. Can you see my resume?
Yes.
So if I go to view, where is it? File, version history, and then see version history. So I got 2 resumes, right? I got my tech resume, and then I got my cooking resume. And both are being held in version control for Google Docs. So
that's a thing.
What's that?
That's a thing.
Yeah. So I have 2 versions of my resume, and I have in control and version controlled. So here's my tech resume. This is my active one.
Again, what? Go back to the beginning.
So, all right. So file, version history. If you don't have a version of your current file, then you name your current version. But I have a history of version control on Google Docs. So I have my cooking resume, right? And then I got my tech resume.
So it's the same file. You were able to just basically commit the different.
Yeah.
So that.
And then I
without
got my,
create new
yeah,
documents.
exactly.
So
And
you're
then I
literally
have,
the same thing GitHub does with code.
exactly. And you can write code here too.
Yeah.
Like, so version control exists in various other ways. So it's,
Yeah,
so,
you can share this with other people too.
mhm.
Okay, well, blew my mind with that one.
I mean, once I learned about GitHub, I started exploring different version controls, and these are the only two that I find helpful. Every other one, it really is kind of pointless to learn, if that makes sense, because
Yeah.
I only really need these two.
I mean, you showing me this makes me feel stupid because you realize how many times I've literally copied a document and like started a whole new thing.
Well, I don't wouldn't say the word stupid, just didn't know.
I mean, it could have saved a lot of time. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah, because like my cooking resume and my tech resume is the exact same layout. So I'm like, I don't want to change my layout. Like, I don't want to do all
Exactly.
that. So
That's amazing. You've blown my mind right now. Holy
yeah.
shit.
Then I got all the versions that I've created throughout time. But
Right.
if I want to go back,
Oh my goodness. See, this is the stuff they should be teaching us in school.
I don't know. I find it more fun to explore myself. But
Mm,
that's myself. Like I have a friend who's like, just get a fucking job. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm learning so much. Well, not being stuck at a job right now. But I also want the money. Because like I because like I help like he works for he makes labels. So I help him compute like a function that creates infinite amount of labels while checking the previous labels to make sure they
you can
don't duplicate.
be freelancing.
Huh?
You can be freelancing right now.
Yeah, I've signed up for Upwork, but I don't have experience, so it's hard to get freelance jobs. Like
Mm.
that's what sucks. Like for example, right? When my friend told me, he's like, you should cut all your skills down because it's not believable. I'm like, but I know how to do all these things. They're like, yeah, but they're like, it's not believable.
Oh, that's
Because
crazy.
because I have no experience. But I'm like really good with all of these stuff. But this is like somebody who's like a senior level, knows all of this stuff. But not the point.
So how do you get past that? You basically give your work for free until somebody signs off on you, and is that
Practically,
it?
there's this senior dev that I talked to at work, and he's seen my work to the point where he gave his full recommendation, like to for me to apply at Google. Like
Uh-huh.
he's put his name on the line,
Yeah.
but like the person the recruiter who like was in charge, because they're like, they can't tell a specific recruiter, it's like I got like some random recruiter from like the California campus,
Uh-huh.
and off the bat they were like, you have no experience, so we can't hire you. And I was like, you didn't even give me an interview, dude.
What about you working on your own projects and actually like creating stuff? Like that doesn't count as experience?
It's such a gray area, to be fairly honest, because I got like, here's the thing, I got like so much, right? They're like, how much of it is truly you, but all of it's truly me, but it's hard to prove it
Is
until
it
I
because
get it
how
until I get an interview.
I see.
Yeah. And then the only time where I made it to like a final interview was for this company called Revenue Cat. And
Mhm.
but it was a startup, and I was speaking with the CEO, and me and the CEO didn't vibe, even though I with the whole tech people recommended me
Yeah.
to the point where you talk to the final round with the CEO. But with him and I just didn't vibe. It was even an awkward conversation. It was weird. Like like it felt like he needed to like get off the computer, like he had other shit to do in a sense, like he was
Yeah.
trying to rush, like he was trying to rush through it, and I was trying to talk,
Yeah.
and like I felt this annoyance, like fuck, and like all right, fuck it.
Right.
But
That was in the space for you.
yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. Like I don't really mind. Like I'm about to start my math boot camp, so
You're
I'm
what?
a So I found this course from UC Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna go into calculus, like linear algebra, matrix algebra,
Yeah,
a
you
little
would
bit of
that.
yeah. So I found I found all of the course, right, for
Yeah.
free, and the exams for free. So
Cool.
I'm gonna teach myself in the next 75 days all of that math. It's gonna be me and ChatGPT working side by side.
Fun.
Yeah. So that's pretty much my plan. So I can, because the last interview that I went to was in Python, and they asked me how to loop through a 3D or like a 3D array.
Mm-hmm.
And let me show you what a 3D array kind of looks like. Let me just create a new one. So like this is a regular array, right? 1, 2, 3. This is a 2D array. So you got 1, 2, 3, right? What makes it 2D is that there's an array within the array.
Right.
So now a 3D array is an array within an array. But
And what?
except it was matrices.
Oh,
So with matrices, it's like it would have been like this. So it'll be a combination of, so let's see, bam, shit. Right. So now I was supposed to figure out a way to here how to access the 2, the 2, the 2, and then jump back to the 4, and then stop at 3. But it was in Python, and I haven't studied Python like in like 3 weeks prior to that. So like I had to almost like remember shit on the spot. So I was only able to, like, I got the first 2 questions, like they were fucking easy, but then like the last question was this, and I was like, fuck. And then that's where I
yeah.
messed up. And then I only had what was it? An hour and a half to complete 3 questions. So 30 minutes per question.
Yikes.
And then there's the guy in front of you, like one with the, the webcam. You got your webcam on and you're coding while he's looking at you.
Ah,
Yeah.
hold my hand at least. And
Yeah.
what would be that type of function for? That type of array for?
Um, well, for Python, it has to do like more, for example, right? Let's say I have 3 people. Well, it's general, any language. Say I got 3 people, right?
Uh-huh.
Each array of information belongs to one person, right? So now I now have a list of people. So let's say like person 1, person 2, person 3, right? I want to know their names. Then I want to know their information, like say number 4. But
Yeah.
then I just want to know the second person, whatever this information is, right?
Uh-huh.
That's basically it. Like the numbers are irrelevant. Remember that. These information is relevant. It's the pattern that you want to find. It's all about the pattern.
Interesting. Wow. Well, good hanging in there, man.
Yeah, I mean, I love this shit. Like, I mean, you can tell I'm always like ready for this shit. So it's part of the game. And
Yeah,
plus, it's I always tell everybody, if shit was up to me, I would be stuck at Wendy's. So here I am.
see?
I'm
Is that what
sorry.
you started? You said you would be, if it were up to you, you would be stuck there?
Yeah, it would be. Because I was supposed to be a general manager. Um, but then they were like they like finessed me. I did the job for like 6, 8 months, like without the actual pay, with the promise of a job. And then
And somebody,
yeah, somebody like once they finally found like somebody who was quote unquote old enough of experience,
yeah,
they were like, nope, we'll make you assistant and you can like become it in like 2, 3 years. And then I was like, fuck you, no. And then like me and the new guy, we started butting heads because he wanted to be like, in charge and shit.
yeah,
And like people didn't respect him in that sense because they were like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. So everybody would just come to me for help. And like, and to the point where he like, I guess, had enough of it and like was like, do you want to like he threatened to like fight me and shit, like
yeah.
fist
Like
fight.
you're the problem why people weren't
Yeah,
following him instead of
yeah. He
his
went to
lab
out. Yeah, he
shit.
went to out alpha me and shit, and I was like, nah, dude. So I walked out because I was like, I'm not gonna get deported over this.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. Plus, don't you got fighting hands too? You probably had to walk away.
was that?
Didn't you say you're feisty? ¿No
Yeah,
te
well,
dejan? ¿No eres peleador?
a little bit. It really depends what it is. I used to be like growing up, not anymore. I'm like, thankfully, by that point, I already had tried psychedelics, so like, I already had calmed down.
Ah, I see.
Like it was, I think I already had done like, I only had done like LSD like 3 times by that point, so I was still brand new to the
Only
game.
3 times? Well,
Yeah.
what are you up to now?
Um, Definitely over at like the 10,000 mark.
No way.
Yeah.
That's where all your
I
money is?
no Well, during the pandemic, I would do like LSD or mushrooms twice a week.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I became a drunkie during that time frame, so
Yeah, but I would also microdose the code, and that's where a lot of my learning came from. So I was always on drugs and coding basically the entire pandemic.
yeah, well,
Yeah. So that's why I
well,
was able to fall in rabbit holes and like learn random shit like that seemed not useful, and then like it's all coming back now.
it's all useful, trust
Yeah.
me. By now I know, like people are always like, well, why do you want to know that? Like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I just want to know. But eventually, like it puts you in, even though right now it may not seem like it, eventually it does put you in positions where you become qualified because of that weird random skill that you acquire.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like I don't trip when I don't get a job. I don't trip at all because I'm like it's not meant for me. If it was up, like I always think back, if it was up to me, I'd be stuck at Wendy's right now.
Exactly.
And that's what like pushes me to do what I'm doing.
Well, you're definitely making more money now.
No, most definitely. I really am. It's because it was $19 for GM. I
Damn.
know. I know.
That's
Like
what
when you
you
I mean it's
Damn.
salary, but when you equate what you're working, it really
I
comes down
mean,
to like 19.
exactly. 50
Yeah. But hey, it's part of the game.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to this. You want to share your screen?
Yes. Let me take this time though to switch my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Hello.
Give me 1 second. Somebody's knocking my door.
Okay. Cool. Let's take a 2 minute. I need to go to the bathroom. Okay, I'm back.
All right, let me request control. All right, I'm in. So let's get back to this. Let me show you how to, for example, right? To access a object, first you're gonna have to always confirm. Like in this case, we know that this object is an object, right? But
Yeah.
let's just change the name object to something more meaningful. Because always try to make your variable names meaningful. That way you can keep them in the track of your head. So we're gonna call this person info, right? And in order to access a person, like an object, you do something called dot notation or chain notation, or what's another name for it? Dot method. So there's dot notation, dot method, or chain notation. You're gonna hear all three of them, and depending like where you're reading, and who's writing what you're reading. But ultimately, they mean the exact same thing. So if you want to access the name on person info, right? You do person info dot name. And when we console log that, node data types out. Now I'm gonna ask one question. Why didn't data types pop up?
Why did it pop up?
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, it self fills, right?
No, we're not inside session 2. We're at remember we've been pushing to Git. So we're currently still on the Git root level. So we need to change into session 2.
So why did data pop up then? Because we were not at, we were at root.
I wrote data, and then my
I see.
personal check
Why
to see
I understood.
if I am where I need to be is that I do like the command node and data, but I don't finish writing out the file. I always use the tab button because the tab button will autocomplete it. But
Okay.
if I'm not there, right,
Autocomplete.
it won't autocomplete. This is not something that they will teach you. This is like a trick that I learned for myself
On any terminal.
on any terminal.
Okay.
On any terminal. This is a little trick that I learned. That way I can always check where I'm at, if that makes sense. And
Valid.
because I'm lazy and I don't want to type out the entire file name.
No, yeah, me too. So good on you for
So
telling me
we're gonna switch back.
when it
Oh,
did fill in or
mm-hmm.
not.
So like here's another quick example, right? Since we're in the root level, there's session 0, session 1, session 2. If I do cd se, will autocomplete session underscore because there's 3 of them. Therefore, I have to finish specifying which one it is because it's not one unique session name. There's 3 different strings that start with the word session.
Okay.
So then I finish it off with a 2.
Okay.
All right, now we're inside there. And now we can access the file we need to access.
Yeah.
All right, and now since I only asked for the person's info, which is this object, and I want to access the name, dot name, Claudia.
Yes.
And if I want to do the age,
You put age.
you put age. But
Right.
you cannot do this
Oh, I see.
unless you have this, Claudia. And then you can do it in object. Sorry, there's a bit of lag between there. Oh, there, Jesus.
That's pretty.
Give it a second. There's a lag between my keyboard and the Zoom.
Oh, it might be my internet. Who do you have for internet?
Xfinity.
Xfinity?
Uh-huh.
Oh. Oh.
Because now we're going into the person's info and the name and the age.
Uh-huh.
So now you have what it's called, what is this proper name for it? I can't think of it. But it will have to do later more algorithms and why you might want to store information like this. Like, for example, right, if I just wrote, just make it easier.
Yeah, like if you wrote the person's name and then other information
Within that, so let me just make it so it makes more sense.
make it make sense.
So put the full name instead. So we do first.
Oh, I see.
And here's something cool, right? The reason why you want to do quotations is to allow it to be a string, because if you don't, JavaScript thinks this is a variable and it's going to search above it if Claudia exists. And if it
Yeah,
doesn't exist, it will turn an error. So you
yeah.
always have to ensure that unless it's a variable, but you're allowed to have variables in it,
You put
then it, so let me show you what that looks like. Let age number be set to 32. Age number. How I like to organize this, it's this way. So it makes it just easier for me to read.
yeah.
You can have it however you want to organize it. This is just my preferred method, because then I can see that there's an object within an object. And then last, let's just say Google. Right? So now I can look up, I can do it like this. It should be F name dot first. And notice how it's auto-completing it for you, because VS Code is able to read through the file. So once again, we run the program and it'll print out Claudia because it went to the person's info under the field first name, and then, I mean, full name. And then that full name has another object with first as its label.
If you would have just done F name, then it would have done output the first and last, right?
It actually outputs an object.
Oh,
So
it does.
First and last. It does. You just put outputs the object.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Because this
I
right
thought you
here,
said it literally outputs object, and I was like, what?
yeah, so this data type is called object. If
Yeah.
if the brackets is an object, and if it has the curly, I mean the regular brackets, it's an array. So it's an array. This is an object, and this is an object within an object. But I can also have an array inside of an object. So we're gonna just say age number. And we're gonna have 0. So you can have an array inside of an object as well. But
Yeah.
this, and then you're also able to loop through it, but that when you start doing this level of looping, it gets really complicated and real slow, real fast. But later on, we're gonna learn about speed and what space-time complexity is, because sometimes, so if you have a loop within a loop, it takes the numbers, the length of the array square in order for it to compute. So,
Right.
but
Has to
don't
go through
don't
it.
yeah, it's a good throw it a square amount of times, and you don't want to have that ever, because that will make your, because if you have like a million, like say for
Yeah.
example, like data points, and it takes a million square in order to run, then that's pretty slow. And then so don't worry, but that's much later on, space-time complexity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Space time complexity.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So then you want to cancel log things separately, is what you're saying?
No, we're just reading through it. But if you want to loop through something, right? For example, to loop through this, you need 1 loop, 2 loops, 3 loops.
3, yeah.
And that makes it a space-time complexity of to the power of 3. And that's really slow. So,
Okay.
and then the idea is that you don't want that. You want you want it to be as fast as possible, but that's completely something else. Don't worry about that yet. You're not working with like large data sets like that yet for you to even understand what that really means yet.
Or how it impacts. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so these are your basic data types.
Okay.
Your float value, your number values, your string, your numbers, an array, objects, and an object can have an object inside of it. It can also have an array, or it can also have numbers. So an object, think of it more like, how can I explain it?
An array
Think of
can
it,
have different, right?
no, an array can only have
One type.
no, it can have strings too. And
Okay.
it can also have objects. So you can have something like this, right? Claudia. And you can also have this. Uh, what is it? Name. Here a second. There we go. Name. The lag is fun. There we go.
Sorry.
You're okay.
You should
Name.
Xfinity's Wi-Fi.
And then Claudia again. So you can still have it, right?
Yeah.
But it only gets more complicated, and unless you have a very specific reason why you want to do an array like this, then
Yeah.
do it. But when possible, choose an object. because it makes it easier to like find the information you want.
Okay. Sounds good.
So that's a lot of information that I just gave you there. I have a recording of everything we went through. I will like put it through a YouTube, like a link only YouTube for us.
Okay.
But we're gonna do this one because I wanted you to work to remember some of the things that we did.
Yes.
So based on the last weeks, right? Like the last time we went, I want you to build a regular loop that takes in. So do you remember what a global variable is?
Do I?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
What's a global variable?
I'm gonna ask you what it is. Um, something that affects a variable that affects the code as a whole and not just in that space where it's used. No?
Yes, you're almost there. Because
Okay.
it doesn't affect the code at all.
No, but it's like rules by how the code runs. Yes?
No.
Okay, explain it to me then.
So a global variable is a variable that lives outside of any function, so it can be accessed by the entire code base. So if I wrote, say for example, right, let test be set to 1, right? Now the variable test only lives inside this double value function. If I want to call test here, it no longer works, right? So now a global variable, right, lives outside. Exactly.
Oh.
It lives outside of the functions.
Oh, yeah, so it does affect all the code
The
beneath. Like you can call it,
the correct word you're looking for is access, not affect.
you can
Uh,
access.
access it anywhere in the code.
Okay.
There's just keywords like that that make a difference in an interview. Because if you say the word affects, the person might assume that you believe that it's gonna, if depending what you write on top, like the global variable is gonna mess up the function or something like that. So the keyword is access.
Mhm.
You're able to access the variable anywhere within the code base, but only below it, right? Because the computer reads from top to bottom, not bottom to top.
Yeah.
So if I wrote like this same variable here and I wanted to access it here, it will not let me.
Yeah.
So it's best practice to write it on top. That way it's accessible by the entire file.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we're gonna create the simple array. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I want you to create a loop, right? And the output should be new array set to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Just double the values.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. Now it's all you.
Okay.
You
Ay, Dios mío. We don't have reference to what we worked on.
yes, session 0.
Oh, okay. Let me just look at here real quick.
The easier one to start is scroll down. Scroll down. Up, up, up. And I think it should be start regular every other. That also works. That's Hold on, let me show you the one that'll probably help you out the most.
Yeah, +1.
Start regular. You want to build from this function basically.
Constant start regular. Let me write. Okay, so I'm going to copy. Did I go?
I wouldn't copy it. I would write it. I would actually write it so you get into the habit of learning the pattern instead of copying it. I know it's a little bit annoying, but trust me,
I mean, but I'm not gonna remember any of this.
you're gonna have to. It's on 7 loops file. So let me show you a quick little thing that we have to go. Here we go. Let me jump back in. So you're able to split screens,
Ah, okay. That might help.
right? Right, split screens, move it along. And you're also able to split down. So you can have multiple editors. We're split down, now you have another one right here. And then you can just make it bigger.
That's crazy.
But you don't need that right now, you only need 2.
Yeah.
So you got the one you're working on, and then the reference from last week.
Okay. Okay, so that's the global array. Loop name for loop const double the value. I'm just picking up from the inside curly bracket, basically. So I need to call it something new, right? I can't just say
Mhm.
double value.
So, okay. So the double the value is the name of the function.
So I would use that.
Nope, because that's already been assigned.
Already been assigned. That's what I'm
Mhm.
assigning right now.
Mm-hmm. So I keep it very plain and simple, right? I always call it new
You
array.
would
Like this is actually how I code. I call it new array. I keep the wording simple and meaningful because if you see my code, it almost reads like if it was from like a textbook because I hate calling stuff like I don't know how to explain it.
that makes
Let's
sense.
say
Can
like if
you
I like if I
rate
want
every single one, right? Because it's only running it through that loop.
to exactly.
Okay.
And that's why it gets reinitiated like see line 41 and 49
Yeah.
is the exact same line because this variable new array only exists within the scope of that function.
Scope. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I can use
Mm-hmm.
new. Equals. No.
Erase the brackets real quick, and I'm gonna show you a quick little trick that VS Code does. If you look at line 14, notice how there's on this a red squiggly line underneath. It's telling you that it's missing something. In this
Okay.
case, it's the brackets.
The curly bracket.
The regular brackets. No. The array brackets.
Oh, the
Just
regular.
yep. See now it's gone
But when I did this, it was gone too.
because it doesn't matter. It just you completed the line. All VS
Oh,
Code is about the lines being completed. VS Code doesn't know if you're gonna run a list or a object.
I see. Array. Yes.
No,
Okay. So, or would I actually use what's inside the let array above?
no.
No.
So we always remember we need to create the start, the limit, and the increments.
Okay.
So if you look at line 42, right? The start is I set at 0 because that's where you want your loop to start at.
Okay. Okay. You're right.
Now it
Where
doesn't
we
have to be I.
Yeah.
It can be whatever name you want it to be, right? But just people use I. That's just a practice. There's no real reason for I. So
Okay,
you
so I
can
can use side two. Okay, so
yes.
use I.
And line 13 is wrong.
Oh no.
If you look at line 13 and line 41,
They're different. It needs to be left empty because that's what we're figuring out down below.
correct. You're creating an empty array.
You're right. Okay, cool. So I will equals 1. No.
Line 42 is correct, by the way, for this instance.
So we are starting at 0.
Mm-hmm. But right now you're starting at 1 plus plus,
Which is 2.
which is nothing. That would break the code.
Oh, okay.
You need to be specific about your
Where we're
start.
start.
Exactly.
We're gonna start at 0.
Then you're gonna set the limit.
It's 10.
No. So let me explain the limit again. So the limit is how many items are in the list, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5
You're
is your
right.
limit. But you're starting at 0. And the way it works is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right?
Oh,
And then so we're starting at at 0, moving up to 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we set the limit to be less than the length of the array. Because 1 less than the length of the array is the last I value. So and the first number that's less than 5 is 4. Does that sort of make sense? It's a little bit,
yes and no.
but let me
I know
explain.
you like explained it to me last time, but for some reason,
Mm-hmm. Don't worry. I'm telling you, loops are the hardest thing to understand, but
4.
once you understand them, they are lifesavers.
But aren't we doing the new array though? But I guess we have to take off the old array to do the new array.
Correct, but this is their index value, and this
Oh,
is the value. So the reason why we use I because it stands for index, right?
okay.
But you can call it, some people call it IDX. Like it doesn't matter what you call it as long as you keep the naming constant. So
Yeah.
if it helps you remember index, you can write IDX.
Okay.
So and then we're gonna set the limit of
I,
to stop at the length of the array. Right? Because less than the array is 4.
yeah.
4, right? But if I had like 1,000, right? And it starts at 0, 1 less is 999 because the index value, the last index value is 1 less than the length
Yeah.
because it starts at 0.
You're right. Okay, that makes sense. You're missing an N.
Oh, I am. There we go.
And then,
And since we're gonna go through each individual one, we're still gonna use the I plus plus because we want to go through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to double each value. Not sure, not if, but if you go to double it up is this a bit more complicated.
times, no?
Nope, plus I, but don't worry about this notation yet. There's because now you're going 0 to 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's the I value plus 1.
Skipping one.
Yeah,
1 plus I. Oh, so you're not adding it to the total as you would in the I plus plus.
no, because the loop is just saying how you want the code to run 1 by 1, by 2, and that this right here can get more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah,
Like I haven't used this notation yet before. I know how it works, but I haven't found a use case for it.
I see.
But it's doable. But this just because it's doable doesn't mean it should be done all the time. So it's always better I plus plus. That way you go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that you know that you're able to access the I values, right? Then you put in curly brackets because this is the loop. It doesn't matter if you have a space. I'm a bit OCD about it. I don't like the space, but you'll find a space or no space. Some people write it like this, and it
Oh,
still
I
runs
left
perfect,
spacing you.
and it still runs perfectly. It doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. But I'm a little OCD, so
And no space.
no spaces.
No, 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 no.
So
Okay, the second line then is basically just saying let the index start at 0 and
mhm.
then increase as it is in length by 1. So work your way up, basically. But we
Yep.
still haven't addressed the new array.
We haven't addressed anything about it yet.
Exactly.
So
We're just
now,
you know which way, how to
mhm,
go. Okay,
yeah.
so now if now we're working on that 2, 4, 6 thing you put up top.
Mhm.
Let x
What's 0 times 2?
0.
So would you multiply 0 by 2? You need to access the value, not the index.
Mm, okay. No, you lost me. Then
Okay.
why
So
here too?
so if you look at line 43, it says it says new array that push array
Uh,
quotation brackets of I, because now you're accessing the array at index of I.
yeah. No, I was looking at the wrong one.
You're good, you're good.
Okay, so then we want the new array to push ARR, which is that new array at index. Then I don't understand then how it's going to push that. I think I don't understand the order in which it goes.
Explain.
Like, To me, it feels like it's written backwards.
Like the loop,
Yes.
like it's creates a start, a limit, and then an iteration, or what?
I just copied what's said on the other one. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's fair. So let's kind of understand what's going on then. So the reason why this is called AAR, because it's called AAR here.
Oh,
So
so
you
actually
need
here.
you need array. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And you ready for this to get your mind blown?
no.
Times two. That's it.
So I did need to times two whatever was
Mm-hmm.
the original array.
Correct, because now you're accessing the array, right? The array at index 0, which is the value 1, and that value times 2.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So this is, let's say, this is an equation.
Mm-hmm.
How to start regular and increment through that.
Mm-hmm.
Increment, you determine that at the end. And the start every other, like, so basically what you wanted to do, it's a different equation, but it's always going to be the same equation.
For looping, yes. So for looping is always going to be this. This is the basic loop right here.
Yeah.
You will adapt it as you need, but like I've told you, I haven't had a reason to like adapt it, just because I always like, you don't want to create an accidental bug, right? If you write this iteration wrong where it goes 0, 3, 7, blah blah blah, right?
Right.
So it's better to make sure it goes one by one, and then you create the conditions.
The conditions is what changes. The second part.
The second part on line 16, correct. That's what creates the change.
That's okay. See, I guess that's what throws me off. My mind is like conditions first, then what it's gonna do.
Yeah, it's like I said, loops, it's the hardest thing about programming, but it's the essential part of programming. So like, don't worry about this. Like I told you, this took me about like 3 to 4 months to fully comprehend.
That's you being nice.
No, I'm not being nice at all. I actually when I first did my first course, I actually failed it, and because like I didn't understand it at all. And
Yeah.
thankfully the boot camp gives you one like one retake, for free.
Yeah.
And then on my second win is when I got it. So like, trust me, this is actually like a very difficult concept to understand.
Yeah. Well, thank you
But
for bearing with me.
no, I'm being genuine. It's actually like, and also like, and like I want to like clap for you, because like I have a lot of people at work. Like, you're not the first one to come to me that wants to code,
Mhm.
but I feel like because the way I act at work, they think like this shit's easy. And then like they pull they pull up and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, who is this person? Yeah,
It's
like
the work, te
I
vale madre.
right. It's like, that's the thing. I've had like 10 people from work, and you're the first one that makes it this far. So
What? To the
like,
session
yeah, everybody gets
after I
e-
yesterday?
no, I'm serious. Like, everybody just like, no, I don't got time, but I just know it's because they don't want to try.
It's intimidating,
It
honestly.
it really is.
I
That's
hope
why
that you're like very nice and patient. But honestly, I was just telling Shay, like, dude, I'm so dumb. I don't know why this guy still like wants to give me his time.
I
Because it's
love this.
intimidating. It's
I
like it's a lot. So you do feel stupid. Like I feel a little brain dead sometimes. It's like, how do you not get it, Claudia? Like this is basic math.
It
Are we
isn't
literally
basic. It isn't basic
in a?
math.
It feels like it. I
Do you
mean,
want
I
to?
should
Do you want to see
think
the
it's
math for it?
no.
Here,
Yes.
let me turn on my camera.